I looking okay? I need to wear a jacket or it's okay?
No, it's fine. Yeah, I'm also having it, but I'm feeling cold, so I'm wearing an extra layer. It's freaking cold and hot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, this will be after my session. So I'll
Mhm.
basically say uh,
So when you're ending your other presentation, you can say that now let's invite Abbas Kudrati to have a discussion about what he sees in terms of current threat landscape and CISO priorities, And then
yeah,
you can say, hey, Abbas, welcome, welcome, whatever it is.
yeah.
And
So okay, yeah. Are we ready?
yep.
Okay, so let's get started. Okay. So great, you've heard about Microsoft's strategy. I'd like to invite now Abbas Kudrati, Executive Security Advisor and former CISO, to just get top of mind from a security perspective. So Abbas, welcome. And the first question for you is, the cybersecurity landscape has changed in the last 18 to 24 months. What, according to you, are the top three cyber threats that CISOs are most concerned about? What keeps them awake at night?
Yeah. Thanks, Avi. In last 18 months, I would say the pandemic has really changed the world in terms of how we operate the business, and more importantly, the threats have changed drastically. And if you recall, just a couple of months back, Microsoft released our latest digital defense report. It's called Microsoft Digital Defense Report for 2021. And in that particular report, we analyze 24 trillion plus signals across the world with all our services, what we have from Microsoft side. And we came up with the trending in terms of what are the top three threats Microsoft sees across the world. And surprisingly, I mean, not so surprisingly, but number one threat which still keeps CISOs awake is a ransomware. And particularly within the ransomware, we are seeing a new set of category. We call it a human operated ransomware. So that's the number one concern. And some of the example, as you noticed in last few 18 months or so, SolarWind, Colonial Pipeline, the meat company in New Zealand. I mean, the list can go on. And almost 1,700 organizations on a daily basis are being targeted against ransomware, which says one thing that everyone is being targeted. It's not a single person or a small company or a big company or not for profit. Everyone is targeted against ransomware. So that's the number one priority, I would say. The concerns CISO are going through. Second one is on supply chain. I mean, some of the attacks, what you have seen as a ransomware, again, giving example of the same SolarWind type of attack, these are all supply chain attacks. And if you look at it, the way technology companies are highly targeted because it's an easy target for them, right? They target one company and they can impact a mass set of customers or a huge set of customers because it's one to many kind of a scenario. So technology companies are constantly getting targeted, and that's another CISOs are concerned that what are you doing today in terms of securing your supply chain, assessing your vendor security in terms of how are they managing the security, what is their patch management cycle, and how they secure their code life cycle as well. And the third, but last but not the least, is about the nation state attack vector. In the first two example I gave you about the human operated ransomware and supply chain, if you look at the attackers profile, these are all nation state category wise. We have seen not one company, all the way from Korea to Turkey to Pakistan. I mean, all kind of nation stacks, all different kinds of attack groups from all these various countries have been targeting our customers these days. So to summarize, I mean, three top concerns: human operated ransomware, supply chain, and nation state attack vectors are the top three priorities or the threats which CISOs are concerned today.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing those insights. I think one of the key things to look at, from a security perspective, is also the ecosystem, which you clearly mentioned. The supply chain is becoming importantly
Yep.
important, and protecting, detecting, and responding to threats is something we always encourage our customers to do. So, in your opinion, what is a good strategy that CISOs should adopt in terms of combating these new emerging threats, because they're going to come fast, they're going to come furious, and they're going to be more advanced every time.
Absolutely, Abhi. See, in terms of strategy, we always talk about the three things, right? People, process, and technology. But let's focus on the two area. When you're building up a security, go 18 months, 24 months back. I mean, every CISO had their strategy aligned with the most famous cybersecurity framework, like NIST cybersecurity framework. This is what most of the CISOs I have seen across the world who are adapting this framework to create the strategy. But their strategy was completely thrown away when we hit the pandemic. So they have to start thinking how I can quickly change my strategy, which I had developed 1 year, 2 years back. It is no longer relevant in a pandemic era when all the employees are working from home. So they have to start thinking now in terms of a zero trust architecture framework. How I'm going to create that, remove completely the implicit trust factor between my employee, contractor, or whoever is working in my company, because there is no firewall, there is no employee in the behind the firewall in my company building. They are working remotely without perimeters. So that's where they need to start thinking how I can implement those famous three principle of zero trust. First one talking about explicit verification. Trust no one but verify everyone. Every signals which I get in my organization, I have to verify against these three completely before I allow them. Because if you recall 24 months, we allow our employee to get connected first and then authenticate and authorize. So there was a trust factor before that. But now we have flipped that particular architecture. We want to authorize, authenticate first, and then only will allow you to connect into our environment. The second principle which we talk about is the least privilege, in which we want to have eliminate all our administrator. We saw the example of SolarWind and all, how administrator profiles are targeted. Same thing happened in the colonial pipeline as well. So the second objective as a part of our zero trust strategy, least privilege, need to know, need to do basis. The third one, which is the most important one, because it goes back to your first question about the threats, right? How I'm going to protect against the ransomware. So you have to have the third principle rightly implemented. We call it assume breach, in which we want to have a layered defensive controls in our environment. Nothing new. We have been calling it onion skin methodology, the defense in depth methodology. It's the same thing, but we are now calling it an assume breach. That means if first profile has been targeted or first control is targeted, we have a second control in place. So CISOs has to think about adapting this new strategy for a zero trust. I mean, we have seen a huge adoption across the globe. If I give an example of Australia itself, we have seen 73% organizations are now implementing zero trust architecture framework, and among them 26% have fully implemented, and remaining one are still in progress. So that's one strategy I would really uh, encourage all CISOs to at least start looking at it and think their architecture from that point of view.
Awesome. Thanks, Abbas, for that. You mentioned the onion ring approach, and traditionally, as organizations, you got different vendors and different products for each of the onion rings. What's your view on that, and what's your view of having a solution that is better integrated together?
Yeah, absolutely. See, if you again look at the zero trust architecture, one of the biggest challenge CISOs are facing when they're implementing a zero trust architecture is how I'm going to integrate so many point solutions I have in my environment. So that is where your strategy should be, or one of the top priorities should be, reduce your footprint with so many technology controls, because it is creating a huge challenge in terms of integrations. There is always a blind spot in terms of if one product is missing out the signals and they're not talking to the other product or other company's product if you have in your environment. That is where you need to adapt a best of platform approach, because that is what going to implement first, make it easy for you for implementing the zero trust architecture, because it's a single platform and you're using the capability natively as a part of the controls technology what you have it, right? So it really goes a long way in reducing the footprint, better integration, reducing the overhead on your company's technology investment, and making it easier for your security operation team to look at a single dashboard rather than too many dashboards from too many products.
Absolutely. I think the biggest challenge in the SOC is alert fatigue, right? With so many different products, getting too many alerts, you can't focus on what's important, and then you might miss out a critical event or which results in an incident, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. I mean, in the last 18 months, we've also seen a lot of customers adopt cloud in a big way. What's your view of, some of the best practices they should consider with regards to security when moving, on-prem workloads into the cloud?
Yeah, I'll tell you, connecting to your very first question when you ask me what is the main thing CISOs are being concerned of, right? And that goes back to your last question. One of the things which CISOs are concerned now that they're working from home and their security operations center, the SIM solution is an on-premise solution, which means it is making it difficult for the analyst to go and analyze all the logs what they have on-premise. And as I said, people are working from home and companies are moving so quickly onto the cloud because of pandemic. They want to make sure that the business is going well and the teams are productive as well. So that's another challenge when moving to the cloud. They are missing out the alerts and monitoring, because that's again goes back the foundation layer of any strategy. Could be NIST CSF or could be zero trust. Your visibility, automation and orchestrations and user behavior analytics is the core foundation of your entire strategy. So they are missing out in that part, and that's something which many organizations have already stepped up very quickly in adapting a cloud native SIM. As you know, Microsoft has a solution called Microsoft Sentinel. We no longer call it Azure. We changed the name. Microsoft Sentinel is our cloud native SIM, which enables you quickly to first get all the log, not only from your Microsoft cloud, but any other cloud provider, any third-party product, including your on-premise resources logs and alert. They are quickly ingested, and we have seen organizations within days rather than months and weeks. They are able to enable the SOC operation and giving those access to their team who is working remotely, and using those cloud native facilities or features such as advanced hunting, such as bringing their own threat intelligence to the cloud, such as using the automations of AI and ML within that particular solution, so they can quickly analyze all the log rather than, as you said, alert fatigue, because that helps them reducing alert fatigue almost 85% when they use this kind of a cloud native technology.
Absolutely. Great. Yeah, actually, when I speak with customers, I think the two key pillars, right? One is, of course, the threat side of things. How do you manage threats in the cloud? And the second is also how do you manage the posture and compliance of these workloads in the cloud? Because it's very easy for teams to spin up VMs in the cloud, and IT may not have even visibility of some of that stuff. So
Absolutely.
Posture management is becoming an increasingly important aspect as well.
And that too in a hybrid world, especially.
Exactly. Yeah. So probably last question for you, Abbas. You've released a book on threat hunting. Can you share why this topic caught your attention, and also share maybe how the audience could purchase your book?
Yeah, absolutely. Audience can, of course, request me, and I'm happy to provide them a link to download that particular book or buy that book. But see, the whole idea of writing this particular, co-authoring the book on threat hunting is, we have seen organization traditionally been using the SIM solution on premise. Goes back to my last question. But now that they are moving on to the cloud, and the next maturity level within their SOC is doing an hunting, because the kind of threat we are seeing it, and again going examples of so many threats what we have seen, ransomware based threat what we have seen, attackers is sitting in your environment for months and months monitoring how you are doing the business, who you are talking to. So it just by having a good SIM is not going to help you. You need to be a little bit proactive, and you need to enable a threat hunting process within your analyst team, so you can go and hunt for these IOCs, or we call it indicator of compromise, and look for any anomalies within your network. That's the only way to protect against so many upcoming threats as such. So I saw that gap, and I thought, let me put down my thoughts together. What is required to enable the threat hunting process within your existing SIM, or if you don't have a SIM, how quickly you can enable it? What are the various KPIs, how you can monitor it, and what are the native capabilities you have it? Do you need to buy a separate service? No. There are a number of native features within Microsoft ecosystem, such as Defender, such as Azure Security Center. We call it Microsoft Defender for Cloud, and Microsoft Azure. They have that native capability for threat hunting. You don't need to buy a separate solution. Just make sure you are using the solutions and start looking at all the anomalies within your environment. That was the whole idea of doing that. And yeah, book can be found on Amazon, any country Amazon portal.
Awesome. Great, Abbas. Thank you for sharing your insights and some best practices. And I hope you can go to continue to write some more books, and we look forward to chatting with you again.
Absolutely. Thanks, Avi, for having me here.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. With that, we'll hand it back to the MC. Thank you. Okay.
I think 15 minutes or so. That's good.
Good.
I'll
Yeah,
stop.
you can share
I'll stop the
the.
recording now.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me stop the recording.